This is CBC Here and Now.
Proving murder without a body?
It's a lot easier if there is a body to know that a crime has occurred.
It takes 50 to 70 or more volunteers to run this today.
Chasing the ace at St. Kevin's Parish.
An iceberg the size of PEI breaks off Antarctica.
It's probably the biggest one we've seen in modern times.
In the weather department, we are tracking showers and good news for those who don't like the humidity, a drier, fresher air mass for tomorrow. Plenty of sun in the mix. The details are coming up.
Well, thousands of people headed to St. Kevin's Parish today, and they continue to flood in.
They're all seeking one thing, a chance to pick the ace of spades and go home with hundreds of thousands of dollars.
And here and now, Zach Audi is among them, of course. So, Zach, what's it like out there now?
It's a pretty incredible scene, guys. It really reminds me of what you'd see before a big outdoor summer concert, maybe the Royal St. John's Regatta. You have crowds of people, mostly on foot, just streaming in the direction of St. Kevin's Parish Hall. Now, the hall is right next to the church, which is the big white building you can see in the background. We've had to move all the way up here just to get a cell phone signal stable enough to do this broadcast. That's how big the crowd of people and their phones are down at the hall right now, and it has been like that pretty much all day here in Gould's. Just take a look. Now this footage is from around midday. You can see the lineup to purchase tickets out the door all the way around the parking lot. Many hundreds of people in line, and it seemed to stay like that most of the day. People are coming here from all around the St. John's area and beyond. Many of those people buying tickets not just for themselves, but for their family and their friends and their neighbors. An office pool, perhaps. I spoke with one lady who was buying more than 400 tickets. At the price of, 3 for $5 on tickets, that means she was spending over $600. That's one individual. Now multiply that by the thousands and thousands of people playing tonight's game. You start to get a sense of the stakes involved. All those hundreds of thousands of people now waiting around, waiting for the 8 o'clock Chase the Ace game to begin. And every one of them has one thing in common. They all think that they're leaving here rich.
We were here a few weeks back and we just breezed down through. So there's a lot more today, but very organized and going through very fast.
What's the mood like in the crowd?
Oh, great, great. Everyone thinks they're going to be the winner.
So what's it like to have the town fill up here every Wednesday night?
Oh, I can't believe it. Last week we just came up to the top of Petty Harbour Road and could just come right up and get our tickets, but today you can't even move.
What will you do with the big prize?
Oh, just be happy. Be happy.
Now, how big will that prize be? Well, last week it would have been over $600,000. We spoke with many people in that crowd who've been coming regularly who say that this is a huge increase over the size of the crowd last week. Will that mean a huge increase in the size of the prize pool as well? Very likely. And just keep in mind, however much money is up for grabs for the winner, the St. Kevin's Parish Association, well, an equal amount of money is staying here in the community and with the church. We'll talk about that a little later in the show. Reporting live in Gould's, I'm Zach Audi for Here and Now.
Well, a trillion-ton iceberg the size of PEI has broken off Antarctica. It is one of the biggest icebergs ever recorded. So what's the reaction here in one of the iceberg capitals of the world? Here Now's Avneet Dillon has more on that story.
For the last few years, a crack has been growing on the Larsen C ice shelf in Antarctica. The 6,000 square kilometer section has now broken away, creating one of the largest icebergs in history. Here in Newfoundland, visitors from all over the world come to see icebergs. But the owner and captain of Iceberg Quest Ocean Tours says he's never seen anything like this.
And I've seen some pretty big icebergs calve off, but not to that magnitude, not at all.
The captain's seen his fair share of icebergs in the 20 years he's been giving tours. He's witnessed what he says are the biggest icebergs you'll find in Newfoundland.
Maybe a kilometer and a half. It's probably taken me sometimes about a half hour to steam around them, you know? So that's pretty big there by our standards.
Scientists say we can expect to see more icebergs of this size breaking away and sea levels rising as a result of climate change.
Once these shelves start breaking up and unplugging this land ice, we could expect, we can't rule out right now, in the order of a meter of sea level change by the end of the century.
Tarasov is Canada Research Chair in Glacial Dynamics and studies the effects of climate change on past and present ice sheets.
To me, this is in some ways just the tip of the iceberg, what we're going to be seeing in the future.
Avneet Dillon, CBC News, St. John's.
And speaking of water, a water ban is still in effect in the town of Conception Bay South. Residents are asked to conserve water, and that means no car washing or watering gardens. The town put out the call to limit water usage yesterday when it ran into trouble maintaining levels in its reservoirs. It's working with the Regional Water Authority to fix the problem.
2 Newfoundlanders were killed in an explosion in Iqaluit last week, and another is being treated in hospital. The men were repairing a boat parked between 2 houses at the time. 50-year-old Noel Priddle died almost immediately. His body is home in Carbonear for a funeral service tomorrow. The 2 other men are from Burin. 57-year-old John Manning died in hospital in Ottawa a few days after the explosion. A 26-year-old man is still being treated. The cause of the blast is still under investigation, but the coroner says the deaths are accidental. And we'll have more on this story tomorrow night on Here and Now.
Courtney Lake's disappearance has been ruled a homicide, but there's no body. So what does that mean for police? And can a murder charge even be laid if she's not found? Here Now's Ariana Kelland reports.
It's been more than a month of searching, first for a missing mom, then for a homicide victim.
We're going to keep going until she's found, until a murder charge is laid and justice is served.
And sometimes to get justice, you need to find the missing person. After all, a body is one definitive way of knowing that someone has been killed. Police only need reasonable grounds to lay a charge, but prosecutors need to prove much more than that.
The Crown is not able to present, I guess, physical evidence or scientific evidence about the cause of death, the manner of death, the time of death, those types of evidentiary issues that you see in almost every case.
Going to trial without a body does happen, though. Just look at Nova Scotia. This is William Sandison, sentenced to life in prison just 2 days ago. His victim's body has never been recovered, but there was enough other evidence to convict.
They're not necessarily rare. They do happen. It's a lot easier if there is a body to know that a crime has occurred. That's the difference between if someone is missing or if you can confirm that they're deceased.
Finding the body could not only find the person responsible, it could also rule out suspects.
DNA evidence does not support necessarily nor prove that a person actually committed the crime. It can only show that a person was there. Yet lack of DNA evidence can fully support that a person wasn't there.
27 years ago, Robert Baltovich was arrested for a crime he did not commit. He was sent to prison for the murder of his girlfriend, Elizabeth Bain.
In that case, they had their theory, they were able to follow suit with the theory, and they felt that the evidence they had supported it. Therefore, they didn't need the body. Now, in the case of Rob, it is a case of wrongful conviction, so they moved forward when he wasn't the actual perpetrator.
They still have not found Elizabeth Bain's body. To date, no one has been arrested for the homicide of Courtney Lake, but that hasn't stopped police or her family looking for answers. Ariana Kelland, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, this incident slowed traffic in the west end of St. John's this afternoon. An 80-year-old man driving this white Subaru Forester somehow lost control of the vehicle and crashed into Contemporary Florist on Hamilton Avenue just before 2 p.m. RNC says the man struck several vehicles, a bus stop sign, and a garbage container before hitting the building. He was taken to hospital, but his injuries are reportedly not serious.
The Capelin have finally started rolling, at least they have in Trinity Bay. So thank you to Don Ivany Mackey for sending this video to us. It's of the English Harbor in Trinity Bay, and what a beautiful night it was to enjoy the first signs of Capelin. DFO is asking the public to let them know when and where capelin are spotted. So if you see the capelin rolling, you can upload pictures and your location to ecapelin.ca.
Still with the big blue Atlantic Ocean, we have an update tonight on the 2 rowers who set off from St. John's last month heading to France.
Yeah, I forgot about them almost. Injuries have forced the men to shorten their journey, so now they're aiming for Ireland.
That's right, so they'll celebrate with Guinness instead of champagne.
I'd celebrate with anything if I made it.
And they will no doubt have a toast to dry land. Joseph Gagnon from Quebec and Brian Conville from Ireland left St. John's Harbour on June 13th.
They've had their challenges, that's for sure. A storm soaked their vessel, including their mattresses, and they've seen sharks as big as their boat.
Yikes. But what's really hampered their efforts, blisters, bruises, and tendinitis. But their spirits are now high, given they're about a week away from landing in Ireland.
That's pretty good, though. How many times have we had sailors leave here and they're not gone very long when we've had to talk about the rescue missions?
Yes,
so
true.
Good luck to them.
Yeah, hopefully they make it there.
Now, if you're going out on the water, I'm going to be telling you all about the winds coming up in your forecast after the break.
Well, the city of Corner Brook has issued a new report on fire services in the city. I'll break it down and tell you what changes could be coming. That's coming up.
Welcome back, but we've got, this is a very different picture.
Yes.
We have to show you a whale of a picture. Look at that.
Isn't that excellent?
Yes. Now, this was taken in White Bay, not far from Sop's Arm. Jenny Gale posted this on my Facebook page and says they were actually out looking for whales when they came across this whale of an iceberg.
It's great. You can even see like the ridges underneath the chin there. Throat pleats.
Yes.
Throat pleats.
I see.
When I saw this picture earlier, I was wondering what those ridges were called, and I Googled it. Throat pleats.
We've had icebergs that look like churches and every other kind of...
Newfoundland.
Yeah, that's right, the island, and now a whale.
That's definitely one of the best we've seen in quite some time. So thanks to Jenny and also Dale, I believe, that took that picture. Fantastic day for touring around to look at some icebergs today. And over the last couple of days, although that cold front's been coming through, it's been bringing some breezier conditions, certainly if you are heading out on the water. And it is also bringing a fresher, drier air mass. So let's talk about, as we take a look at our highs today, the cooler, fresher air mass coming in is going to be bringing a big drop in humidity. And when I talk about fresher, drier air, it is in terms of how it feels. And there's actually been a little bit of grumbling going on. No one here in this studio tonight, which is good, but certainly some folks have been grumbling about too warm, it's too humid. And so tomorrow we are going to be seeing still temperatures in those low 20s, but a drop in the humidity. So a little bit of something for everyone in the forecast over the next 24 hours or so. Again, those highs today near 24 in Central, 23 in through the St. John's metro region. Labrador City did not report snow this morning, and I didn't hear any reports just on the ground either from Labrador City or Wabash. Perhaps up in the Smoky Mountains, perhaps a few flakes there. They did officially report snow and actually had a little bit of accumulation on the ground in Shefferville this morning over along the Labrador-Quebec border. So yeah, I think it's July. We're all right with seeing no snow today. 16 in Happy Valley Goose Bay right now. And note that cooler air, 16, 17 in Corner Brook, 21 in Gander, but that cold front is pushing through right now. And we talk about the dew point, and this is kind of your gauge. Once we get up towards the 16, 17 range, we're starting to get sticky towards uncomfortable. Dew points have been closer to 19, 18 in the metro region over the last couple of days, so it certainly has been sticky, but this front is bringing us back to reality. And again, there's that GOES 16 satellite visible shot, which shows nicely where the clouds are clearing out. Corner Brook just starting to get into some sunshine, some high clouds still lingering through Central, and this is where we're seeing the steadiest cloud cover in those showers working up towards northeastern parts of Newfoundland and Labrador. Around the backside of this low, we've been seeing some scattered showers and clouds that have been wrapping in behind. There's that clearing trend through western Newfoundland, and this is the line that's most active right now, and keeping an eye on this, which is rolling eastward across Bonavista Bay, heading towards Bonavista, getting some reports that it is getting a little black to the north there, and Bonavista right down across the peninsula. This cell also might clip the Clarenville region, so if you're out in the next half hour to an hour, you're going to want to keep your eye on the sky for sure. And when the thunder roars, head indoors. And as we saw there are some lightning strikes with that line that the future tracker's picking up nicely. It does roll to the north tonight. We are looking at things quietening down, and it's a terrific start to Thursday. Double digits on the menu to start the day. Winds again a little bit breezy from pretty much start to finish tomorrow in from the southwest, gusts 40 to 50, but lovely in terms of lots of sunshine to start, a little cloudy to start the day in through Labrador. And as we roll throughout the day tomorrow, watch the clouds building up southern Newfoundland and then across the Avalon. So clouding certainly into the afternoon, but I still think some sun in the mix right through the afternoon tomorrow. Thursday should look at around 21 to 22 degrees in terms of our temperatures. I think we'll hit 23 with more sunshine in Central, and anywhere from 17 to 20 degrees up parts of the West Coast, 15 to 19. Whether you're in those westerly onshore winds on the northern peninsula or a little bit more shielded on the east side. And there are those shower chances across Labrador from Nain down through Cartwright, even Mary's Harbour, late day possibilities there. Happy Valley Goose Bay near 18 as well. Labrador City near 16 with mainly cloudy skies and just a slight risk of a shower. As we roll into the long range, we're going to talk about another terrific Friday, and as we look ahead to the weekend, the good news is that it's mainly going to be rain-free. A couple showers to dodge. We'll tell you when and where coming up. Debbie?
Thanks, Ryan. A new study of Corner Brook's fire services recommends some expensive changes. The study was commissioned by the city in May of 2016 and says the West Coast city should have multiple stations and more staff per shift. Those changes could cost over $5 million. Here now's Colleen Connors reports.
This is part of the 220-page final report for this fire study, and it suggests some very big changes for the city of Corner Brook. One being multiple smaller stations across the city to help fight fires a little bit faster, and also adding extra staff per shift. So the rationale behind all of this, of course, is that the city of Corner Brook is really spread out. There are hills everywhere. The station here right now is actually on a really big hill. So if there are these smaller stations spread out around the city, then they can get to the fires a little bit faster and hit those response times. So the National Fire Protection Association has a response time of 4 minutes, so these smaller stations will hopefully help hit that every time. Now, there is a very big upfront price tag for that. However, they're saying that it could cost up to $4.5 million to put 2 smaller stations in the city. But the staff at the city of Corner Brook say that could cost even as much as $8 million. The study also recommends adding 2 firefighters per shift, and that would cost $900,000 per year. But the deputy fire chief does agree with all the changes in this fire study.
Well, you know, I can't disagree with the report, and the report is based on the industry standard, the NFPA standard. And from what I can gather, the city have accepted the report and are reviewing it as a business plan and a plan to go forward for the future Corner Brook fires. So I'm pretty excited about seeing a lot of this come to play.
Now, of course, these recommendations are just that. They're suggestions for now. And will the city of Corner Brook really implement these changes, and will they really spend the money to do it?
Yeah, these decisions have to be council decisions. You know, us as staff in City Hall, we'll make recommendations to council, but at the end of the day, we're spending taxpayer money, and taxpayers and their representatives have to make those decisions.
Well, with this municipal election in the fall, new council, new mayor coming our way, the question, of course, is will voters make the changes to the fire services? Will they make that a hot button issue? We'll have to find out. Colleen Connors, CBC News, Corner Brook.
Well, the day has finally come. The Bank of Canada has increased its key interest rate. The overnight lending rate was raised by 1/4 of a percentage point to 0.75%. The change will have a far-reaching impact on everything from lines of credit to mortgages. It's been nearly 7 years since the rate was last increased. Low interest rates have helped fuel the housing market in recent years, giving Canadians incentive to build high levels of debt. So what does this mean for you? The CBC's Pete Evans explains.
When the Bank of Canada raised its benchmark rate, even a small hike can cost you big. Take your typical homeowner. Let's say they just bought a house worth $750,000. Let's assume they put down 10% and got a mortgage for the rest. If they were smart and shopped around, they might have gotten a variable mortgage at a rock-bottom rate of about 1.75%. That's currently costing them about $2,864 a month. But if their lender turns around and passes on the central bank's hike to its borrowers, oh, and spoiler alert, they will. That sweet mortgage deal might not seem so sweet anymore. That means the monthly payment's going to go up by $83 a month. That's almost an extra $1,000 a year, every year, for the next quarter century. But what if the Bank of Canada is not done yet? Even just 2 more tiny hikes would drive that mortgage payment up another $250 a month, or an extra $3,000 a year. So if a mortgage flirting with 5% seems hard to stomach, don't forget what happened 30-odd years ago. Anyone with a house in the 80s would be quick to remind you they paid more than 20% a year in interest on their first mortgage. That's like buying a house on a credit card. With numbers like that, the math quickly gets downright scary, so let's focus on some of the positives of slightly higher rates. Savers are in for a break, as savings accounts are going to start paying out more than the next to nothing they've been giving out for a while. And higher rates are good news for the loonie, which tends to take flight when rates rise. So your dollars could soon go further if you can get your hands on them. But if you're one of the many who's been ignoring the almost constant warnings about paying down debt, it's time to start paying attention.
Well, that's always some good advice. That was the CBC's Pete Evans reporting. Well, it was an art world bombshell that put Nova Scotia on the international map. A donation to the Art Gallery of Nova Scotia of nearly 2,000 photographs by Annie Leibovitz. For nearly 50 years, Leibovitz has been taking photographs of the icons of pop culture, everyone from rock legends to society mavens to movie stars. More than 4 years later, the collection is still in storage. Now, a CBC News investigation has found why the photographs have yet to see the light of day. Jack Julian has that story tonight.
Leibovitz is one of the world's most famous living artists. Her photographs are iconic, portraits of musicians, artists, and actors spanning nearly 50 years. For the Art Gallery of Nova Scotia, this was a coup.
It'll just be a smash, both Canadian and international. It'll be a destination.
But the donors, the Mintz family of Ontario, stood to benefit too. The donation was tied to a tax shelter arrangement. First, one of Harley Mintz's companies bought the photographs from Annie Leibovitz for $4.75 million US. 2 days later, it gave them to the Art Gallery of Nova Scotia. Then the gallery asked the federal government to certify the art as a cultural property with a market value of roughly $20 million. That could have created a tax windfall of roughly $9 million, leaving the donors potentially $4 million ahead. But for the tax shelter to work, the art must be approved by the Canadian Cultural Property Export Review Board. Notes from a 2014 board meeting show opposition to the plan. Motivation here is to make a tax grab. Motivation is key. This is tax package stuff made for financial, not artistic reasons. 3 times the board rejected the bulk of the Leibovitz collection. And under the terms of the sales agreement, that's blocking Leibovitz from collecting half her money. But even worse, the board ruled that the bulk of the art either lacks outstanding significance or national importance to Canadians.
In this case, it's kind of distanced the artist from not just the Art Gallery of Nova Scotia, but from Canada as a whole.
Noble says the gallery has now applied a 4th time to get Leibovitz's collection certified by the Federal Review Board, a key step towards getting the photographs up on gallery walls.
In an email statement, the donor, Harley Mintz, says calling this a tax grab is simply unfair. He says this has been a difficult and a frustrating situation for everybody, but especially for Annie Leibovitz, who he says has seen her name and her artwork denigrated. A spokesperson for Annie Leibovitz declined to comment. Jack Julian, CBC News, Halifax.
The crowds just keep on coming to chase the ace in Goulds. But while all of these people are dreaming about getting rich, the St. Kevin's Parish Association is certain to have a lot of money when this chase the ace is over. We'll talk about that after the break.
Welcome back, everyone. We're about an hour and a half away from the big Chase the Ace game in the Ghouls. And if there's a winner among the crowd of thousands, they, of course, will take home maybe $750,000.
Wow, but when it's all said and done, St. Kevin's Parish will be left with a lot of money as well. And for that angle, we go back now to Here and Now's Zach Gowdy. So Zach, how much money are we talking about exactly?
Well, put it this way, whatever the size of the eventual prize for the winner, an equal amount of money is staying right here at St. Kevin's Parish. So if the ace were to go tonight and the prize was $800,000, that means there's $800,000 that the church takes home as well. But that's just for the Chase the Ace. It's also running a 50-50 draw. So last week the prize for the 50-50 was like $66,000. That's another $66,000 towards the bottom line of this fundraiser. So if the Ace were to go tonight, you could ballpark it at about $1 million, somewhere thereabouts, that the church has made from this Chase the Ace. That is more money than most church or community organizations could ever dream of fundraising. But the volunteers at St. Kevin's are working for that dollar. Earlier today, I spoke with Parish Secretary Patsy Hines about what it takes for a small church organization to pull off an event of this size.
On Chase the Ace Day, it takes a lot of organization. We have one gentleman who takes care of just getting the people here. Like it takes 50 to 70 or more volunteers to run this today. So we have one guy who's dedicated to just getting volunteers. And there's people running all day long, running behind, picking up the tickets, taking care of the money. It's just crazy.
It sounds like a lot of work, but it must also be exciting.
It is exciting, and and it's turned into a real community event. People see people they haven't seen forever, and they're hugging, and they get together. I've even heard of people saying they get together now and have tea, and then they come back and wait for the number to be drawn. And then the businesses are doing really well. So it is a real community event.
Now, Patsy, what's this going to mean to St. Kevin's Parish and to the church in the long run?
It means a lot. I mean, we can now get major things done that we couldn't before because we didn't have the money. So now it'll put us in a good position to get a lot of major work done.
Wow. Just before I let you go, when the game starts tonight, are you going to be cheering for the Ace to go, or do you want this to continue for another maybe 12 weeks?
Well, we'll say I'll cheer for it to keep going because it's good for the church. But it is very exhausting for the volunteers, I've got to say that. But we've come this far, so we might as well keep going.
You can bet that each of the people in this line is cheering for the Ace to go tonight and to go right in their hand. But keep in mind, there are still 13 cards left in this Chase the Ace deck. That means there's only about a 7% chance of the Ace coming out tonight, a 93% chance that we'll be doing this all again next week. Unless, of course, somebody gets very lucky. Reporting live in Goulds, I'm Zach Gowdy for Here and Now.
Well, an iceberg bigger than Prince Edward Island has broken away from Antarctica. Coming up, we'll speak to an expert in glacial dynamics. Welcome back to Here and Now. Well, as we heard earlier, one of the biggest icebergs on record has broken away from Antarctica. It's 5,800 square kilometers, or about half the size of the Avalon Peninsula. All of that ice will pose a risk for ships traveling in the area, but some scientists say there's a much greater risk at play. MUN researcher Lev Tarasov says it's a sign of what's to come.
It was not unexpected. It's been the crack that was forming for this iceberg to break off has been monitored for the last at least half year. So it was more of a waiting game among the science community of when it would happen. The size, it's one of the biggest. It's probably the biggest one we've seen in modern times. The area of it is half the size of the Avalon for comparison. Ice only survives if the temperature is below zero, and as with global warming, and warming is strongest in the polar regions, Antarctica and Greenland, the ice is starting to melt. And especially the ice shelves, they're in some ways the canaries in the coal mine. They're very sensitive to changes. As soon as meltwater in the summer starts ponding on the ice, it can fill up the cracks. There's always cracks in these large ice shelves. And these cracks, once filled with water, they start to bust apart very quickly. To give you a sense too of this Larsen B ice shelf was, I said, about half the area of the Avalon. The total amount of area of ice shelves currently around Antarctica is about 260 times that much. So again, to me, this is in some ways just the tip of the iceberg, what we're going to be seeing in the future. And the actual impact on sea level change of an ice shelf is basically negligible, because it's just floating water that's in the form of ice, so it's not going to change sea level. But the more disconcerting aspect is that these ice shelves are like plugs that hold back the ice that's on land. And once these plugs disappear, the land ice can start moving a lot faster. they can form what we call ice streams, which are basically almost like rivers of ice that can move on the orders of meters a day, or 10, 20 kilometers a year, which are quite fast. If you think of ice usually as something you think of as just standing there, but it actually is quite dynamic. And once these shelves start breaking up and unplugging this land ice, we can't rule out right now on the order of a meter of sea level change by the end of the century. It would be enough to displace on the order of 50 million people in Southeast Asia alone. And if we think of the trouble Europe has had, a well-off Western area handling less than 10 million migrants, Southeast Asia is much poorer, 50 million migrants in a already crowded area. Where are they going to go? And I think that's probably one of the biggest risks with climate change, is rising sea levels and the associated international turmoil, the geopolitical instability. We'll probably have more increased violence as people get frustrated because there's no place for them to live. Countries being more destabilized when you have 10 million migrants in a poor country like Bangladesh. So those in terms of the longer term perspective, which I'm worried we'll see within, again, the end of the century, I think are probably going to be some of the biggest impacts we'll see.
Well, switching gears from icebergs to center ice, 160 eager young players are living a dream by taking part in skills and drills with hockey hero Sidney Crosby. The three-time Stanley Cup champion is putting on a hockey school in his Nova Scotia hometown. And as Paul Palmater reports, some of the kids have traveled a very long way to get there.
Idemar Emile celebrated his 13th birthday in style by skating on the same ice as his hockey hero, Sidney Crosby. While it's a long way from his home in Tel Aviv to Cole Harbour, that hasn't stopped Emile from cheering on Crosby and his Pittsburgh Penguins.
I saw the last series of the Stanley Cup. All the games I saw. I was very excited.
Idemar Emile was born and raised in Tel Aviv, but his father was raised in Halifax. 22 years ago, he moved to Israel. Finding a place for his son to play hockey has been a challenge.
There are two major ice facilities that we have in the country, one in the center of the country and one in the north of the country. Ice time is very, very difficult.
Jonathan Emile says his son first fell in love with hockey when the family was in Nova Scotia 3 years ago on a family vacation. They were visiting in Halifax and decided to go for a public skate in Bedford.
Next to the public skate, there was a rink where Crosby, McKinnon, and Marchand were skating in an open skate. and he was exposed to it that way.
The Emil family has already spent a few weeks away from home traveling through the United States, where they made a trip to Disney World in Florida. But the highlight of the family journey for Itamar is his trip to Crosby World in Cole Harbour.
I'm very excited to go on the ice first time, especially in Cole Harbour, which is the place that Crosby grew up, and I'm a big fan of him. I think I'm going to get a lot of new skills and things that I didn't know how to do it.
Emil is one of 160 players at the hockey school. Every Canadian province and territory has at least one player taking part, and there are many American players, with 32 states being represented. Paul Palmeter, CBC News, Cole Harbour.
The weather update is brought to you by Belltone Hearing Service St. John's, helping the world hear better.
Thrill for a lot of those young hockey players,
Oh my
especially coming
goodness.
all the way from Tel Aviv and meeting Sydney. Anyway.
Huge highlight. That'd be a huge highlight for anybody to meet Sidney Crosby, but great story there.
Yeah.
Now, before we get to the forecast.
Yes, we have a very cute moment that was captured on camera.
Now, it happened just a couple of minutes before we went to Zach out in Goulds for his live report at the top of Here and Now. Just have a look.
Crowds. What? Babe, 2 minutes.
All right. Well, I need to give you a hug because I love you.
Oh, we like to hear that. You made my night.
And he meant that. Now, that's one thing you can hug, but here's something you can't.
That's right. A Labrador woman who got very, very close to a bear.
That's Lisa Bakey taking the photos. She was on Route 500 driving from Lab City to Happy Valley Goose Bay on Sunday. She spotted this curious bear sitting in the middle of the road, so she pulled over, and that's when he moseyed over and sniffed around.
Yes, a very curious bear. Lisa waited until the bear sat back down on the road, and then she slowly eased away. Lisa says she looked in the rearview mirror and she saw the bear watching her as she drove away.
She didn't scratch the paint. That's exactly what my dad would say. Get that bear off my car, he's going to scratch the paint. Anyway, I'd probably say the same thing, actually. It's a new car. Okay, so we've been watching some active weather in the Bonavista region. I talked about that line that was working across Bonavista Bay with a few lightning strikes. There's the latest radar. So on the doorstep of Clarenville, and then up into Bonavista Bay, and just moving in to the town of Bonavista as we speak. And in fact, a great shot here from a viewer. This was taken by Lee just moments ago. You can see a very ominous sky. And yes, folks, that is a beautiful shelf cloud there that you can see behind the clothesline, but it's still there. And a great shot there. Thanks to Lee Tremblay, who sent that in to me. And you can do the same if you're safely from your inside, because the thunder is roaring, so head indoors when the thunder roars. But if you can snap a few pics, always appreciate it, and we can share them here on the show. So thanks to Lee for that. Winds gusting upwards of 50 kilometers per hour tomorrow. A whole lot less humidity, especially in the east. Comfortable temps, though. We're looking at 20 to 23 degrees generally across the island. Again, it's a sunny start, but for the Burin and the Avalon Peninsulas, you're going to notice the clouds certainly thickening up for the afternoon hours as a system slides just off to our south. And even an evening risk of a shower, but it looks like for the most part it will be off to our south. Now for the Labrador City region, rebounding nicely to 16 degrees for you folks tomorrow. Some scattered shower chances, mainly along coastal Labrador, but not ruling it out for Happy Valley Goose Bay as well. Evening chances of showers for the Northern Peninsula, and as I mentioned for the Avalon, with that system that'll be moving to our south. By the time we get to Friday morning, it's another nice start across the province, and in fact staying that way. Bit of cloud building into Labrador, Happy Valley Goose Bay and eastern parts of Labrador through the day, but overall Friday is looking like a dandy day. Mostly sunny skies across the island, 20 to 23 degrees, 23 to 24 with sun and cloud across Labrador. As we roll into Saturday, for the most part, a pretty nice day. This cold front, we're going to be watching that rolling into western parts of Labrador, increasing the clouds in Happy Valley Goose Bay, but staying dry there. And we will see an increase in cloud cover into the afternoon hours on the island. But overall, it's a dry day and 22 to 24 degrees. It's a comfortable day in terms of those temperatures as well. For your Sunday, it does look like we will see a few showers into Saturday night, but those should clear through Sunday morning and even into the afternoon. This is the system, and the forecast models have really been kind of flip-flopping with this one. Now an idea further to the south, which means less showers in the mix. So whatever showers we do see, I do think for the most part will be Saturday night, but it looks like a pretty quick clear out now on Sunday. And so the weekend looking a little bit brighter than it did even 24 hours ago. And how about the heat building in for Monday, where we're talking about high 20s into central parts of Newfoundland. Could even see some 28, 29 degree temps and a pop-up shower or thunderstorm risk with that heat building in. And for Labrador, again, looking at those showers for Sunday, and actually Western Labrador should say showers there for Saturday as well.
Time to meet our young athlete of the day. Today, this is soccer lover from Portugal Cove St. Philip's.
Matthew Rideout is 8 years old and plays with the Portugal Cove St. Philip's Spurs. Matthew has been playing soccer since he was 2.
Way to go, Matthew. You're today's young athlete of the day.
Many British Columbians have a bag packed and are waiting at their front door today. They're on evacuation notice and at the mercy of wildfires burning across the province. We'll have more on this story after the break.
Welcome back once again. Well, people in British Columbia are watching the weather and hoping for calm conditions. More than 200 wildfires are burning in the province's interior, and more than 14,000 are out of their homes. Here's Rafi Boudjikanian with the latest.
Williams Lake is holding its breath, waiting to hear if the flames get too close. On the front lines, the battle has not stopped. Firefighters arriving from all over the country, including this group from Alberta, all on hand to help out. People who've been forced to leave are worried about the fire threat and report some evacuated homes have been looted.
I mean, if it burns, but you don't want nobody taking your stuff. You work, okay.
But there has been generosity too. At this Salvation Army thrift store in Kamloops, all these items have been given away by the community, ready for pickup by anyone who's a registered evacuee. At the evacuation center itself, more help for people.
I think because they love humanity. And when tragedy comes, I think,
your deepest love comes out for other people. Many of my volunteers went through the 2003 fires themselves.
And some assistance for furry friends.
So most of them, it is just a matter of, oh my goodness, in the rush of everything, I forgot my dog bowls. Okay, here you go. You know, and that kind of things.
Of course, one big concern for many evacuees here is when they'll be able to return home and if there will be a home to return to at all. Residents of one community, 100 Mile House, have been told they have to steer clear for at least 7 more days. Rafi Wujikanian, CBC News, Kamloops.
Online doctor visits are attracting notice in Canada. Private telemedicine companies are connecting patients to physicians. But that's raising concerns about what it means for the public system. Our health reporter Vic Adopia has that story.
When Sarah or one of her kids gets sick, she can't afford to lose any time.
Skip the walk-in wait room, click on your computer instead, and within minutes you can be communicating with a doctor somewhere in Canada. That's the promise of half a dozen new virtual clinics.
We are exploding. We have about 27 medical providers and we're scaling up all the time because of demand.
In most cases, the doctors are Canadian and work in the public system, but do paid virtual visits on the side via audio, video, or instant messaging. And since one-off online consultations usually are not covered by the provinces, private companies see a business opportunity.
It's an Uber model. So what happens is the doctors are billing the patient, but we are the facilitator. So we do all of the payment processing, and for that we charge a small fee to the doctor for providing them the platform to see the patient.
Some employee insurance plans do cover private options like this. Either way, some see the idea of paying for basic health care as problematic.
We have to understand that this is a breach in the universality principle of the healthcare system, because in most of these applications you have to pay to have access to the service.
Virtual doctors are popular in the US, and in January the public system in Britain signed on. But unless that happens in Canada, critics say dealing with doctors in both the private and public systems leaves patient records incomplete and could hurt their ongoing care.
Just because you can access something quickly and get a prescription faster and get care faster, it's not necessarily a good thing. We need to make sure that it actually does benefit the patient and make sense within the system.
British Columbia's health plan has already agreed to reimburse doctors, but only if it's with people who are already their patients. Providers of these online services say it's only a matter of time before other provinces do the same. Vic Adopia, CBC News, Toronto.
An Indigenous group in Manitoba says all the commissioners should step down from the inquiry into missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. And it wants the Prime Minister to appoint a special commissioner so that Aboriginal women can run their own inquiry just for Manitoba.
We want control because we want to ensure that the voices of family are heard and that the recommendations are in fact based on the experience, the lived experience of family members and survivors.
The group says a separate Manitoba commission could still feed its findings into the national inquiry. Last night, another group, the Ontario Native Women's Association, also withdrew support for the national inquiry. These moves come less than 24 hours after one of the inquiry commissioners resigned.
Staying in the prairies, an investigation is underway in Saskatchewan to determine what killed 200 cattle. Animal Protection Services is investigating whether those responsible for the animals neglected their duty. Initial test results show dehydration and salt poisoning may have been factors. Drought has affected the area in recent weeks. Officials believe this may have led to extreme evaporation, resulting in higher concentrations of salt in the water.
Police in Germany have arrested at least 2 people suspected of stealing a giant Canadian coin. Heavily armed special units raided several homes in Berlin early today. In March, at least 2 burglars broke into a museum where the gold coin was on display. They carted the 100-kilogram coin away in a wheelbarrow. The piece is one of only 5 in existence and is worth more than $4 million. Experts say thieves likely melted down the coin so they could cash in on the gold. Well, This is a daring rescue effort in Sri Lanka with a happy ending.
Oh my goodness,
Yeah.
look at the poor thing. An elephant was swept away by an ocean current off the island's northeast coast. Navy divers and wildlife officials rushed to save the animal, and using ropes they managed to guide it back to the coast.
Yes, and the elephant survived. It was treated and later released into the jungle. So certainly a happy ending for that little guy, that little big guy.
Yeah. Well, a bride in Alaska received the surprise gift of a lifetime. Oh, hearing her son's heartbeat for the first time since his death. Rebecca Turney's son Tristan died 2 years ago. He was an organ donor.
And on her wedding day, the groom surprised her by inviting the man who received her son's heart to the wedding. 21-year-old Jacob Kilby stood in as an honorary groomsman, and after 2 years, Turney felt and heard her son's presence once again. Powerful.
Very powerful and
heartbreaking, and
I'd rather not have
heartwarming.
that on my wedding day, but it's a very personal thing, isn't it?
Yeah. I wonder how she felt about it.
Well, heartwarming for sure. Okay, we've been keeping an eye on this line. Just wanted to update you quickly. Heavy downpours, some lightning with this rolling across the Bonavista Vista Peninsula right now. Head indoors because you don't want to be out caught in that. Quick look at the next three. Very pleasant conditions, especially across the island. Labrador too, but we are watching for those showers in Labrador on Saturday.
Wow.
And so much weather in one picture. It's a lightning rainbow. What a snap.
That is fantastic.
So hard to get lightning in a picture, let alone a rainbow behind. Vanessa Keeping, thank you so much for sharing this on my Facebook page. You can do the same.
That
Great.
is incredible. We've had great viewers, don't we?
We do.
Great
Best.
pictures. Thanks for watching, everyone. See you tomorrow.
Good night.
Good night.